Good morning to all of you. We have really a beautiful morning over here, this part of our country, surrounded by the wonderful, beautiful mountains and this forest. And to tell you frankly that I have liked this place very much. It's real good. Let me tell you initially that I'm not that good a speaker. In general, musicians are not that good speakers. So I decided to write down certain points so that I don't mess up with the time, because the time is very short and I would like to get you to certain technicalities of this classical santur and whatever is possible in this short time. Because santur has been in our family of Sufiana Gharana that I belong to in Kashmir. And this family has been the custodians of santur, of Sufiana santur initially. My great-grandfather, Pandit Pandit, who introduced a new concept in Sufiana Musique, that's the traditional classical music of Kashmir, which is partly based on the Shaiva Gayan also, the singing of Shaivites, their chanting. And that style, in Indian terminology, we call Baaj. So he introduced Sufi Baaj. This was carried on by my grandfather, my father, and finally I got the inheritance of this Baaj, and my grandfather started teaching me santur. Because the instrument is very, very sensitive, and which was essentially the instrument of Sufiana Gaiki. And I remember an incident, and I would like to tell you about that. Early 50s, a child artist who was known that time, the child prodigy, was taken to one of the auditoriums, the only auditorium in Kashmir, and that was in Nido's Hotel, where he was supposed to perform a brief recital for the first time in Indian classical history of Indian classical music. And I was taken to the auditorium by one of my father's very senior disciple. But something went wrong somewhere. I saw at the back of the auditorium a jhula. So since I was very young, I was just 5 that time. So I slipped away, and there was an announcement about me, which I was later told, and the artist was no more there. So I was brought back, given 1 or 2 by that senior disciple, that you are not supposed to do this and you were supposed to be on the stage. Now come. So I started weeping, but I was brought to the stage. My brother was waiting and he was playing tabla with me. And he was also cursing where the hell I had gone. And that recital laid down the future of Indian classical santur that you see in my hand. But it was not like that initially. What was handed over to me was a Sufiana santur which had 25 bridges, but my father had added 2 bridges to that, making it 27. Number of strings, 100, as the santur is. Shatatantri veena to Shattar to Santir, Santuri, these are the various names, and finally to Santoor. And my father had added 2 bridges to it, making it 27. Because Sufiana Gaiki is basically singing vocal music accompanied by santur. And I was taught by my grandfather, things like this. This is typical Sufiana style of playing santur. But this style initially carried on for some time, and I remember in 1959 I was invited because after that 1953 performance I was promoted by the state in various concerts, various festivals with the same 27 bridges santur I was playing. And when I went to Allahabad in 1959 in a major festival organized by the Faculty of Music in Allahabad along with Prayag Sangeet Samiti, so people were really curious to know what is this instrument and how classical music is played on that. So my father accompanied me there. He gave a brief introduction to santur, what it is and how it's in our family and what I have done with it. I started playing and people loved it. They said, wonderful tone, very good. But the problem is that grammarians, they don't accept anything that easy. They came with their bass voices. बहुत अच्छा है पर शास्त्रीय संगीत नहीं है इसमें, राग. I wouldn't know what this he's talking about. But my father said, well, this is how it is played and this is what he has done. And by the grace of God, my tempos were very fast tempos and certain technicalities that I had taken over. So it's after 1960 that I started working on santur and what to do about it. The mandra saptaka, that these 4 notes, because Sufiana Musiki doesn't have mandra saptak, that is mel saptak and the tar saptak. So in 27 bridges of santur, the mandra saptak was there. So I started gradually increasing the bridges, number of bridges. From 27 it went to 29 to 31 to 33, and this santur has now 44 bridges. Now this is not the question of only just bridges, because the extension was very important. Now Sufiana santur, which is just half of it, I had to expand it. So the technicalities were there, the shaft and other things, how to sustain the pressure, and the notes would go from the low frequency to higher frequency. See. And now this is done to create certain classical musical technicalities. Now for example, I would talk about the meat, how Indian classical, what actually the grammarians were expecting me to do was something like this. Now, as I said that in Sufiana music, they are cut bowls. Just have a look at it. What we call staccato. But raga doesn't follow this system. There has to be a sustain, a connection of notes. And how I did it with the gradual, passage of time, I created various movements, the finger movement, the wrist movement, the arm movement, the shoulder movement, and to keep the spine right straight so that your body doesn't get so much of pressure. And I added the tumba, the god here. because the traditional was a stand what we, a tree, triangular stand, which was known as sapphire. But this sapphire, since santur was very small, and it would be, quite flexible on that sapphire. But playing this kind of technique, playing the rag shastra, the pure raga, wasn't possible like that. So the tumba was added to raise it, to give the more depth to notes, to give more sustain. Now see that. As long as I want to sustain this note, to retain this note. Now the concept is, if you would just join me in this phrase. Just sing it once. Sing it once. Louder. Now this is a sustain. Because, for example, this is a raga called Basant Mukhari. Now what happens in this? We have to do like this. Because all the time if I would play the notes like this, sa re ga mi sa re ga, this doesn't make a raga. It has to go like da sa re ga mi ga da. Now, how it is played on the santur? Just to give you an example, otherwise time's running and I would just like to give you more details about it. So this is something about the main and then the pressure technique. See how it goes. What actually I want to play is, or how the raga goes. So another 2.5 octaves have been added by me in the pressure technique. 3 octaves on the surface of it with 43 bridges. And then there is a terminology called krantan, which is very complicated. We took in fact very number of years for me to develop it. See how it goes. Various shades of the notes, which is the requirement of the raga. Then there are cut bowls. How the cut bowls go? In the vocal system, pada ni da pada ni da pada ni sa ni da pada ni sa ni da pada ni sa re sa ni. our time. Then the various tan patterns. I was just good, this is a run through. Now the tan patterns, for example, dha, ra, dir. And then I added tarab to it. These are the tarab strings which vibrate. That's the tarab basically. This is a tarab. And but number of things are there. Now see the finger movement. Now there's a faster composition. In a 16-beat cycle to give an idea what the Sopori Baaj that I introduced into classical music, Indian classical system. This couple of illustrations in that, and what is the impact of this classical santur during these 60 years that I have developed in my career, performing career, and how it goes. Thank you very much, and you liked it, liked the recital, and well, this was just not the recital. Recital will be in the evening, and it was just to give you a little bit of information how this Sufiana Santoor developed into the classical Santoor. I got it into classical Santoor. And now, so far as the rendering of, for example, Drupad system of Indian classical is concerned, or any technicality, whether related to any other instrument or to vocal music, everything can be created and played on this instrument. There isn't anything that cannot be played. And the grammarians are very, very happy and very, very excited about the Sopori Baaj. And by the grace of God, this has been acknowledged all over the world, in our country. And number of my disciples are playing the same kind of santur in the country and outside the country, and making it Indian classical popular to all corners of the world. God bless you, and thank you very much.